Hi, everyone. I'm Janice Wood, your host today for Senior Citizens Forum. And Senior Citizens Forum is presented by Benefits for You 2 Insurance Services, where our specialty is Medicare insurance and health insurance. And in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing a Medicare 101. So stay tuned and listen for when that Medicare 101 class will be coming up. It's important that you always know what your benefits are. But today, I have a friend of mine on, Julie Liu. She was on the Senior Citizens Forum on, I believe our first season.
Yes. Hi, Janice.
Yes, hi. And she is an accident lawyer. I've known Julie about 6 years, 7 years.
Oh, since 2016. So
Yeah, it's
6 years now.
Yeah, I remember when she was pregnant with her son, and he's got to be about what, 4?
Yeah, 3.
3, yeah. So he's telling her about life now.
Oh, for sure. Very talkative.
Yes, okay. And Julie went to UC San Diego, and she got her law degree at the University of Syracuse. And I always have a joke about the University of Syracuse. My brother was a avid sports fan.
Right.
Had no idea I would know who the Orange Men were.
Right.
So, and I'm not an avid sports fan, so I do know the Orange Men.
Yes, I mean I think they're most famous for their NCAA basketball championship, right?
Right, yes. Okay, and Julie has been practicing for like about 14 years now.
13 going on 14, yes.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to talk about it because this is a senior citizens forum. What happens when us as seniors, and I include myself, things change in our lifetime. We have arthritis, we don't respond as quickly as we do before. We don't even see as well. I know I have eye issues, okay? So, and it's stuff that we don't want to give up our driving.
Right.
Going places, and because giving up driving is like giving up independence.
And freedom, right?
Right, freedom. And it's just, but sometimes, we have to do things because maybe you don't see that stop sign or you don't see that signal changing the different colors like you did when you were 50 years old. Okay. So it's, life does change, and we slip, we fall. And so when is it that we would need a lawyer? If something happens that either we weren't guilty of, or we'll also go to the other side when we are guilty.
Right. So for the most part, the law or the area of law for personal injury, it includes both negligence, which is you're injured due to somebody else's fault, but there's also assault and battery, where it's an intentional act. It's not negligence. They intended to hurt you. That also falls within personal injury. I think what you're trying to allude to is accidents, correct? Like auto accidents, slip and fall accidents that a lot of seniors may be more prone to, either on the road or in the public space, in a grocery store. So in those instances where the senior is actually the one that has been injured, they would need an attorney to help them process and make their claim. A lot of the pitfalls that we see with senior citizen claims or senior claims is due to their medical records. A lot of times the insurance company would say, well, this is degenerative. This is pre-existing, because a lot of times, when we reach a certain age, even at my age, we've had a history of back pain, neck pain, and they're going to look to your medical records, your previous x-rays, MRIs, and okay, well, you've already had all of this existing. It's not caused by. You would need an attorney to come in to pinpoint saying, look, this is what will help you make your claim, and this is what we need to explain from your history record to help, bolster and make your claim stronger. Also, I mean, the whole purpose of finding an attorney at that point when you are injured is so that you can make sure that you get the medical care that you need, and then you make sure that the insurance company or whoever the defendant might be is going to be covering your medical costs. At some point, we want our clients, seniors, to reach a point where they are the same condition as they were prior to the accident. But a lot of times that doesn't happen. So we need them to reach what's called a maximum medical improvement, meaning the care that they need, but they're just not going to be pre-injury status. And that adds a different component to your injury claim because now we're saying, look, he or she's going to have to be living with these certain conditions for the rest of their life, and these are the records that show that. And this is how much the claim is worth. So that is when you would need an attorney to help make your claim.
Okay, now, from what my understanding is, if I have my auto insurance, okay? And doesn't the insurance company provide me a lawyer to help me through some of this? So when would I move over to you versus keeping my insurance company?
So if you have auto insurance or home insurance, I apologize. If you have auto insurance or home insurance, that insurance is only going to kick in when you are at fault. What I described earlier are seniors who were injured, meaning somebody else caused them the injury. So your insurance wouldn't come in and provide an attorney for you to make your claims. They would only provide a claim to defend against or defend you made by somebody else. So in earlier examples where you said, you may run a red light, or you might have rear-ended someone because you didn't see them. Those are accidents that were caused by potentially a senior. So that's when your insurance would hire an attorney to defend you. And that's when you wouldn't have to go out of pocket, because the whole purpose of your auto insurance and home insurance, if you have that, is for that purpose, for liability.
Okay, because I remember one time, probably about 15 years ago, I ran into a back of a car.
So a rear end collision?
A rear end collision. I was at a stoplight and I was driving a standard transmission at the time. And I bent down and I rolled into a jack.
Okay.
Okay. And it was my fault, totally my fault. Okay. And I ended up, they put in claims that weren't there anymore, that I didn't create. And that's right when the cameras were becoming popular. So now I would automatically take a picture, okay?
Right.
And then when I saw what the insurance company paid for, I said, no, this isn't going to work. And then they were putting in medical against it. And when the insurance company said, well, we'll go to our legal department.
Right. So you're talking about the person who was rear-ended by you. They made a claim against your insurance.
Right.
Right. Okay.
And all I did was tap them.
Right. So it's actually, it really is very hard. I mean, 15 years ago, not too much has changed, but it's very, very hard to make claims that are very, very big from rear end collisions. So a lot of times when it's just a minor fender bender, and if someone is making a claim for personal injuries from the fender bender, they're going to have medical records and treatment to support any personal injury claim. And the insurance company likes to, I guess, associate with the amount of property damage to the amount of personal injury, but it's not really, it's not really tit for tat like that. You don't really look at it that way, but insurance companies. So for example, if you had a $1,000 property damage, it's very unreasonable that they're going to be making a claim for $100,000 because they need surgery for their back injury. I mean, that's not reasonable. But if there's other facts that may lead to higher medical bills, then that's something that could be considered. For example, each case, and I want to preface this by saying each case is fact specific and it's very, very different. So, not related to seniors, but for example, if a person was injured in a and it was a small accident, but she was pregnant at that time and she needed emergency care. the care or the bill for the emergency room, the radiology, it's obviously going to be a lot bigger than somebody who just went to a chiropractor or who just went to urgent care or their primary care for a consultation. So those are the differences in facts that may lead, that may cause a claim to be bigger than what you would expect.
Okay, because I just know there's so many different scenarios for car or automobile accidents.
Right. There, and it's all fact specific. It really depends on the facts of that specific case.
On the specific case, because I know lots of times, I want to say about 9 years ago, I was on the freeway and a motorcycle was just zooming by and he rolled in front of me.
Okay.
And luckily I saw him, so I didn't roll over him. I have no idea whatever happened to him. I have some really strange things that have happened to me.
I was gonna mention that you've had quite a few accidents or witnessed a few accidents in the last few decades.
Yeah, and because I saw him coming, I was already prepared to stop because he hit the car in the next lane.
Okay.
And rolled in front of me. This is totally was the motorcyclist's fault.
Right.
And so if I would have hit him, would have I been responsible? This is a crazy question to ask.
So the law might be different now than it was back then because lane splitting is legal now. So a motorcyclist can actually split a lane with you, which was not legal a few years ago. So again, you would have to, as an attorney, when you're speaking about with a new client, you're going to try to get as much facts as possible, right? So if there's a police report, if there's witnesses, you're going to want to get their statement. We're going to want to find out what exactly happened. Was it the motorcyclist that bumped into the vehicle next to you, or was it the vehicle that bumped into the motorcyclist, pushing that motorcyclist in front of you? Because that fact can change liability. It could determine whether the motorcyclist is 100% at fault, 50% at fault, or not at fault at all.
Okay.
Right. So you would have to gather. It's a fact finding. Yeah, you would have to gather all of the evidence, and you would have to determine whether or not what the motorcyclist was doing was the cause of the accident. I mean, for you, if you hit that motorcyclist, obviously, it would be him ricocheting or ping-ponging off someone else's car. Right. So you wouldn't be liable for that. But they could make a claim, if he had an attorney, he could make a claim saying that you were driving faster than you should have, and you should have been able to brake prior to hitting him. So they might make a claim against you saying that you're also partially at fault for causing some of his damages.
And he was really fortunate because the motorcycle rolled over a couple of times.
Right.
And he fell off of it. I don't know how.
I mean, those type of accidents are extremely dangerous. I mean, most motorcycle accidents, they end up as trauma too in the emergency department at the very minimum.
Yeah, and but I saw him coming up.
Okay, well, I mean, that's good because you were able to observe and then avoid.
And I was able to brake, which he was very fortunate. So
right.
Very, very scary. I mean, there's just so many different scenarios. And as a senior, it's very scary.
Right. And it's, and that problem actually is not specific to seniors. I mean, it's plagues all drivers.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right. But I can see from your perspective, if there's a senior and they're already being more cautious than normal, this would cause them even more anxiety and stress.
Well, because I know I don't have all my peripheral vision.
Right.
That I have. And so I'm extra careful when I drive. And I'm off the freeways now.
Oh, are you? So you only drive local now?
Only driving local now.
Okay.
Yeah, and I live right at a high school, so I do my best not to leave when they're doesn't always happen.
Right.
Because they change the schedule all the time. But it's one of those things that you've got to watch as your senior. And because I'm so active, I'm very aware of what's going on.
Right. So you actually are pre-planning because you're being more cautious for yourself, because for the benefit of people who are less cautious.
Right. And
or more reckless, I should say.
And I've cut back on my driving, which
Mhm.
I know was very difficult to do because I'm really concerned that, or if I hurt myself, that's one thing. But if
Mhm.
I hurt somebody else,
Right.
that's a completely different thing.
Right.
And I remember having that conversation with my mother, who she lived to be 86. And up until she was like, just before she turned 86,
Mhm.
she walked into the mirror in her house in the middle of the night and she fell. I mean, it
Right.
ended up being very, very serious. But
Yeah, I mean, was it fractured hips from falls are very common in the household.
shoulders,
Right.
yeah. So it was like, oh my goodness. But she was driving that day
Oh,
with, and then all of a sudden she couldn't go in the car. And for her, it was like, you gave up my independence.
right.
And I know it's hard as a senior to give up that independence. But you
Yeah, I
got to,
mean, there are laws that are out there, and attorneys that are out there that can help protect seniors in those kind of situations. So it's not an incident where, just because you're a senior and you're involved in an accident, that liability is all automatically contributed to age. It really depends on the facts. It's not the number one factor to look at. I mean, insurance companies might want to look at that to minimize certain claims, but if you have a good attorney, um, good insurance policy, I mean, all of that is there to prevent you from exposing, your assets to somebody making a claim against you, or for an insurance company or somebody to be minimizing your claim for your injuries.
okay. And then I was reading an article this morning, okay? And they were talking about this law group was in a completely different state, was talking about, they go back and they look at the medications seniors take.
Right.
They go and they talk to their families to see
Mhm.
if they've been trying to take away their driver's license from the seniors
Mhm.
and all of that. Is that what the same thing they do here in California?
So if the claim goes into what's called a litigation phase, meaning, you file the lawsuit, it's now in what's called litigation, then yes, they are privy to all that kind of information. And during that discovery phase, they can ask all kinds of questions that can lead to admissible evidence. And somebody that is asking those questions, they're trying to see if the medications that a senior might be taking altered their state of mind at the time of driving. So basically, did that contribute to the accident? And then also, if the driving privileges have been taken away, that might indicate that the senior had previous accidents or had previous incidences where the family member was concerned, and that might lead to evidence that can help bolster the other side's claim, saying this person shouldn't be on the road.
So if they've taken away my license, which they haven't, okay,
Mhm.
all right, and I get into an accident, I'm in really major problems.
Correct. Right. And that
I'm
that
really
is an
broken the law.
issue regardless of age. Like if you are driving and you're, then that is a big, big issue.
Yeah, that is a major issue.
Right.
That's
Right.
scary to me. I mean, for me it is, okay. But Julie knows how active I am and all the
Right.
good.
You're a world traveler.
Yeah, traveling very shortly again. But so to give up to your independence is really hard.
Mhm.
But you got to think about, what if you hurt somebody else?
Right.
And we live in a day and age now where things can be brought to us where we shouldn't.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, and I don't want to advertise anybody, but using things like a taxi or a Lyft,
An Uber. Right.
an Uber, something like that is really helpful. And for seniors, if they need to go to the doctor, if they're saying,
Mhm.
oh, I need to go to the doctor, if they have a Medicare Advantage plans, especially in the Southern California area,
Right.
they provide transportation to and
Right.
from the doctor's office.
Mhm.
Now I know, especially as we're coming out of the pandemic, okay,
Mhm.
it's, you can order, we were ordering groceries online.
Right. Yeah. It's very convenient now. Amazon Fresh, Instacart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's ways to go around it, which I know this isn't Julie's bailiwick, but it's, we have to think if there are alternatives that weren't available, and I'm to, let's say, to my parents, the generation before me.
Right.
But the generation before that, food was delivered to their house.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the point, when you are injured and you're a senior,
Mhm.
it's kind of imperative that you hire an attorney because they're going to be nitpicking your history, your medical history.
Right.
They're going to be inquiring about all that stuff. So you need someone to be able to kind of defend you or kind of stand up and object to unreasonable requests or unreasonable questions, to kind of protect your claim. But on the opposite side, if you are the person that is at fault, you know, way to kind of protect yourself. And obviously, this isn't what I do, insurance defense, because
Okay.
insurance will defend you. One way to protect yourself is make sure that you have enough auto liability coverage. Make sure if you have a lot of assets, make sure that you have an umbrella coverage so that you're not exposed. Because if you have in California, which is what the minimum is, it's 5,000 property, 15,000 for injury. So if you have the minimum, and the person is hospitalized or is seriously injured, that means your insurance company is whatever the policy limit is, which is 15, but they can come after you personally for any and all of their medical bills and other damages that they might have. So that's why, not just an attorney, but you can protect yourself other ways. You can, get the proper coverage, speak to an insurance agent, broker who can, tailor something that's specific for you that is going to protect you. And then also, if you have property assets, speak to a trust attorney. Make sure everything is protected, and that they can't come after you or your assets.
You're just talking about two of my guests that I've had on this season,
Okay.
or they will be on this season.
Yeah, I think it's very important.
We've had David Gerson
Mhm.
come on and talk about wills and trust. So if somebody's watching us for the first time, please look for that show, because it is posted on social media, YouTube.
Right.
And we also have had another friend of Julie of mine is Justin Bithell from Farmers Insurance.
Mhm.
Not this season, we didn't talk about umbrella policies, but
Mhm.
I think in last season we did. This season we talked about senior toys,
Oh, okay.
like the motor homes,
Right.
motorcycles, like you were
Right.
talking about. Okay.
Right.
Well, we're talking about seniors driving motorcycles. Okay. And boat accidents.
Right.
Okay. So that leads me into something else with Justin, where we talked about senior toys. So if I'm riding a motorcycle,
Mhm.
okay, and he talked about how important it was to be insured.
Right.
And as we talked about in that show, we talked about when I was in my 30s, I was out driving a motorcycle, and then of course I raised my children. Now I'm retired, I'm going back out and riding that motorcycle again. That's not the same motorcycle. There's a lot more to driving that motorcycle today.
Right.
So if I'm in an accident, and do I contact you?
Oh, yes. I mean, yes, the personal injury attorneys, that's what we do. And obviously, whether it's your fault or not, you should always speak with an attorney to kind of assess what your situation is, and what your next steps should be.
Okay. And so look for my shows that talks about all these different things with Justin. Wills and trust. I've had some realtor friends of mine on to talk about real estate.
Right. I mean, there's lots of ways protect, everyone, not just seniors, but especially seniors
Right.
through insurance and estate planning.
Now, if I fall at somebody else's home, or
Mhm.
let's say I live in a senior apartment complex
Right,
and I fall, who's
right.
responsible then?
It's depends on the facts.
And the fact,
So if you were invited to somebody's home, but there was a quote unquote dangerous condition that caused you to trip and fall and you were injured, then you can technically file a claim against that person's homeowner's insurance for their negligence and for your injuries.
okay. So
And
it's
then, for same thing for, in if you're in an apartment complex for seniors, if this was in public space and it was the complexes or the owner's duty to maintain and control that area where you fell and there was a dangerous condition, then yes, you can make a claim as well.
yeah. And then the other one, I know lots of people don't want to talk about this, but if I had a friend that I had living in a skilled nursing facility.
Okay.
A lot of people call it rehab centers,
Mhm.
okay? And there's some neglect going on.
Okay.
Or I fall because of neglect.
Right. So that's a little bit trickier because that might actually be considered medical malpractice, especially if these are nurses, licensed nurses and licensed doctors who are um, the ones that are neglecting the senior. And that is something that I don't do.
Yeah,
It is still within personal injury, but it's just a completely different area that I don't practice, which is medical malpractice.
yeah. So, but you would know who to refer to.
Oh, yes, yes. With all these instances, you should speak to an attorney and then assess what your situation is. And then obviously an attorney will guide you, this is actually what you need. You need to speak to so-and-so.
Okay. Can you think of anything else that we haven't covered?
No, I mean, it was really good catching up and speaking to you again, Janice. I think
Yeah,
it's been
no,
a year and a half since our last podcast.
yeah, it's been about a year and a half.
Well,
And
thank you so much for inviting me on again.
yeah, thank you very much. And we're going to post the information on how to get a hold of Julie. Julie has her practices in Irvine, but she can talk to you via Zoom on the phone. I know we needed some information, and it wasn't a lawyer that I have contact with. She helped us get a lawyer that found out that we really didn't have that big of a case where we needed a lawyer. And she was so responsive. And I haven't used Julie personally, thank goodness. Okay.
And just so your listeners and viewers know, consultations are free.
Oh,
Right. And then I also charge on contingency basis for plaintiffs or claimants, meaning the person that was injured. My fees actually come from the settlement that I can get for the senior. It's not coming out of their own pockets.
cool. That's really good. And anything else you want to add?
That is it.
Yeah, and we have on here how to contact you, and of course how to contact me. Everybody have a great day, and thank you so much, Julie. It was
No,
fun.
thank you, Janice. Thank you, everyone.